It is 3 a.m. and you are staring at the ceiling again, but this time you are not thinking about your salary. You are thinking about that $500,000 house you just signed for. You were told that buying a home is the ultimate American dream and the smartest financial move you could ever make. But as you lie there in the dark, the math just does not feel like a dream anymore. You hit the six-figure salary mark and you thought you finally made it. But then you realized that a $500,000 mortgage is not an asset. It is a 30-year prison sentence. In the 1970s, a house cost 3 times your annual income, but in 2026, that same house costs 7 or 8 times what you earn, while the interest rates are eating your future alive. You did everything the system told you to do by saving for a down payment and fixing your credit score, yet you feel like an unpaid landlord for a bank that owns every brick of your home. Welcome to the $500,000 housing trap, where you are working 60 hours a week just to keep a roof over your head that you do not even truly own. The banks and the real estate agents keep telling you that real estate always goes up and that you are building equity, but they never mention the hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest you will pay over the next 3 decades. When you buy a $500,000 home at current interest rates, you aren't actually paying $500,000. You are paying closer to $1.2 million by the time you are done. The math is fundamentally broken because you are trading 30 years of your limited life force to pay back a loan that the bank created out of thin air with a single keystroke. They call it a mortgage, which literally translates from Old French as a death pledge because it is designed to keep you tied to the system until the day you die. You are not building a legacy for your children. You are building a massive profit center for a multi-billion-dollar financial institution that views you as nothing more than a recurring revenue stream. You look at your monthly payment and you see that only a tiny fraction is actually going toward the principal, while the rest is being swallowed by interest and property taxes and insurance. The government and the local municipalities view your home as a golden goose that they can tax indefinitely to fund their own bureaucratic expansion, regardless of whether your income goes up or down. If you stop paying your property taxes for even a single year, the government will send armed men to take away the house you worked so hard for, proving that you never really owned it in the first place. You are essentially renting your property from the state and the bank while taking on all the risk of maintenance and repair and market volatility. The system has successfully convinced the masses that debt is wealth and that a lifelong liability is a proud achievement of the middle class. While you were outbidding other families for a modest 3-bedroom home, giant institutional investors like BlackRock were waiting in the shadows with billions of dollars in cheap capital to buy up entire neighborhoods. They do not want you to be a homeowner because a man who owns his land is a man who is difficult to control and impossible to exploit. They want a nation of renters who are perpetually dependent on corporate landlords for their most basic human need, which is shelter. By driving up the prices to $500,000 and beyond, they have ensured that the average worker will be trapped in a cycle of high interest debt for the rest of their existence. This is not a free market. It is a rigged game where the house always wins and the house is owned by the people who print the money. You spent $40,000 on a new roof and $10,000 on a broken furnace and another $5,000 on taxes this year, yet the bank still expects its full payment every single month without fail. Every dollar you spend on maintaining their collateral is a dollar you cannot spend on your own freedom or your family's future. You are trapped in the maintenance loop where you work to fix the house so the house can stay valuable for the bank that actually holds the title. The math of homeownership in 2026 is a shell game designed to keep you distracted while the actual wealth of the nation is being concentrated in the hands of the top 1%. It is time to stop viewing your primary residence as a safe investment and start seeing it for what it truly is, which is a high-cost subscription to the modern matrix. Most people are house poor, meaning they live in a beautiful $500,000 cage, but they cannot afford to take a vacation or buy healthy food or save for a rainy day. They have sacrificed their quality of life for a zip code and a status symbol that is slowly draining their bank account every single day. The psychological stress of a massive mortgage is a silent killer that leads to burnout and health problems and broken families, but the system never mentions that in the glossy brochures. They sell you a dream of stability while they deliver a reality of constant anxiety and financial fragility in an increasingly unstable world. You have been sold a lie that ownership is the only path to security, while in reality, the only true security is having the freedom to walk away from a rigged system. The dollar is being devalued at a record pace, which means the $500,000 you owe today will be paid back with cheaper dollars in the future, but the bank has already accounted for this with high interest rates. They are not stupid, and they would never lend you money if they were the ones losing out on the deal. The entire housing market is a giant bubble fueled by artificial credit and central bank manipulation that can be popped at any moment, leaving you underwater on a house that is worth less than the debt you owe. We saw it in 2008, and we are seeing the same patterns again, but this time the stakes are even higher, and the middle class has even less of a safety net. If you are betting your entire future on the hope that house prices will go up forever, you are playing a dangerous game with a deck that is stacked against you. Modern feudalism is alive and well, but instead of living on the king's land, you are living on the bank's land and paying them with your time and your labor. The mortgage is the chain that keeps you anchored to a job you hate and a city you want to leave because you cannot afford the cost of moving or the loss of a steady paycheck. You have become a prisoner of your own lifestyle, where every decision you make is dictated by the need to cover the next interest payment. The system has successfully commoditized the very concept of home and turned it into a weapon of mass financial destruction for the average person. It is time to wake up and see the $500,000 house for the trap that it really is, and start looking for the exit door before the trap snaps shut forever. The hidden cost of home ownership that the banks never want you to calculate is the brutal reality of maintenance and the relentless decay of physical assets over time. While you are busy celebrating your $500,000 purchase, you are actually taking on a second job as an unpaid property manager for an asset that is constantly trying to fall apart. Every roof leak, every broken HVAC system, and every cracked foundation is a direct extraction of your future wealth that goes straight into the pockets of contractors and hardware conglomerates. You have been sold the idea that your home is an investment, but a true investment puts money in your pocket every month, while a primary residence does nothing but take it out. In 2026, the cost of labor and materials has skyrocketed to the point where a single major repair can wipe out 5 years of supposed equity growth in a single weekend. You are trapped in a cycle of working 40 hours a week to pay the mortgage and then spending your weekends working on the house just to keep its value stable for the bank that actually owns the title. You must realize that even if you pay off your entire $500,000 mortgage, you still do not truly own the land because the government is your permanent landlord through the system of property taxes. In the United States and the United Kingdom, you are essentially paying a perpetual lease to the state for the privilege of living on your own property. And if you fail to pay that lease for even a short period of time, they will use the full force of the law to evict you and sell your home to the highest bidder. These property taxes are not fixed, and they often increase regardless of whether your income has gone up or your house has actually become more functional. You are a tenant in a high-end digital feudalism where the king is the local municipality and your hard-earned savings are harvested every year to fund their bureaucratic machine. The concept of absolute ownership is a legal fiction designed to give you a sense of security while keeping you tethered to the geographic location that the system needs you to stay in. The opportunity cost of tying up your life savings in a down payment and monthly interest is the most invisible part of the housing heist that steals millions from the middle class every decade. If you take $100,000 and lock it into the walls of a house, you are losing the power of compound interest in more liquid and productive assets that could actually buy your freedom. The banks want your capital locked up and immobile because it makes you a predictable and stable part of their tax base and their consumer pool. While the wealthy elite keep their capital fluid and moving to chase high-yield opportunities, they have convinced you to bury yours in a pile of bricks and mortar that grows at a rate barely keeping pace with real inflation. By the time you account for taxes, insurance, maintenance, and interest, your real return on a primary residence is often negative when compared to the simple power of a diversified investment portfolio. Homeowners insurance has become a mandatory racket that adds thousands of dollars to your annual housing cost while offering less and less actual protection when you need it most. In 2026, premiums are exploding because the insurance companies have realized that the current economic climate is too volatile to provide the same old coverage at affordable rates. You are forced by the bank to pay for a policy that often has such high deductibles and so many exclusions that you end up paying for most repairs out of your own pocket anyway. It is a system of legalized extortion where you pay for the peace of mind that never actually arrives, and if you ever try to make a significant claim, they will simply raise your rates or cancel your policy altogether. This is another line item on the corporate balance sheet that turns your home into a recurring revenue stream for the financial elite while leaving you with all the risk and all the anxiety. The rise of homeowners associations, or HOAs, represents a new layer of private government that has been granted the power to fine you and even foreclose on your home for the smallest infractions. You paid $500,000 for a house only to be told what color you can paint your door or what kind of grass you are allowed to grow in your own front yard. These organizations are often managed by power-hungry neighbors or third-party management firms that collect monthly dues and provide almost nothing of value in return. It is a microcosm of the larger systemic trap where you pay for the illusion of a premium lifestyle while sacrificing your individual sovereignty to a committee of strangers. The HOA is the final nail in the coffin of the American dream of independence because it ensures that even in your own home, you are never truly free from the oversight and control of an external authority. We are living through a period of artificial scarcity where the housing market is being manipulated by central bank interest rates and zoning laws that favor institutional landlords over individual families. The $500,000 price tag on a starter home is not a reflection of its intrinsic value, but a reflection of how much debt the system can force you to take on. When interest rates are low, prices are pumped up to the moon, and when interest rates are high, your monthly payments become a crushing weight that prevents you from ever getting ahead. The system is designed to keep housing just out of reach for the majority so that you will be grateful for the opportunity to sign your life away for a 30-year debt contract. This manufactured crisis ensures that there is always a steady supply of desperate borrowers who are willing to trade their future freedom for the basic human need of shelter. Institutional investors like BlackRock and Vanguard are not just buying houses, they are buying the very concept of the neighborhood and turning it into a corporate asset class. When you live in a street where half the homes are owned by multi-billion-dollar hedge funds, your community is no longer a collection of families, but a managed portfolio of rental units. These corporations do not care about the quality of the school system or the safety of the local park unless it affects their bottom line and their ability to extract rent. Their presence in the market drives up prices and property taxes for everyone else, making it impossible for the average worker to compete with their unlimited supply of cheap capital. You are playing a game of Monopoly where one player started with all the money and already owns all the properties on the board, and you are just hoping to roll the dice and not land on their hotel. The psychological toll of being house poor is a silent epidemic that is destroying the mental health and the family structures of the modern middle class. When 70% of your take-home pay is dedicated to keeping the roof over your head, you have no margin for error and no room for spontaneity or joy. Every minor setback becomes a potential catastrophe, and every month is a high-stakes race to ensure the bank gets its cut before you can even think about your own needs. This constant state of financial survival mode keeps your brain in a perpetual fight-or-flight response, which makes it impossible to think long-term or plan for a real exit from the matrix. The elite understand that a stressed and exhausted population is a population that is easy to manage because they are too tired to question the blueprints of their own cage. Closing costs and real estate commissions are the front-loaded theft that ensures you start your journey into home ownership in a deep financial hole that takes years to climb out of. You are expected to hand over tens of thousands of dollars to lawyers and agents and middlemen just for the privilege of signing the debt contract with the bank. This money is gone forever and provides zero value to the house itself, yet it is a mandatory part of the transaction that enriches the gatekeepers of the system. In 2026, these fees have become even more predatory as the industry tries to squeeze every last drop of capital out of the dwindling pool of first-time buyers. You are being fleeced before you even get the keys to the front door, and by the time you realize how much you have lost, it is already too late to turn back. The final truth that you must accept is that in the modern economy, true wealth is not found in the ownership of a primary residence, but in the ownership of your own time and the control of productive assets. The $500,000 house is the anchor that keeps you stuck in a job you hate and a system that is designed to drain you until you have nothing left. Breaking free from the housing trap requires a fundamental shift in your perspective where you prioritize cash flow and mobility over the status of a zip code. My name is John, and I am here to show you that there is a different way to live that does not involve being a debt slave for 30 years. It is time to stop following the outdated blueprints of the past and start building a future that is actually based on the math of freedom. Subscribe to this channel and let us continue to deconstruct the matrix together so that you can finally take back control of your life and your wealth. Modern feudalism is alive and well, but instead of living on the king's land, you are living on the bank's land and paying them with your time and your labor. The mortgage is the chain that keeps you anchored to a job you hate in a city you want to leave because you cannot afford the cost of moving or the loss of a steady paycheck. You have become a prisoner of your own lifestyle, where every decision you make is dictated by the need to cover the next interest payment. The system has successfully commoditized the very concept of home and turned it into a weapon of mass financial destruction for the average person. It is time to wake up and see the $500,000 house for the trap that it really is, and start looking for the exit door before the trap snaps shut forever.